And a good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, General Manager at WEIU. Today we're going to talk about all things Charleston School District. Todd Vilardo.
Hey, how are you doing?
Welcome. Kristen Holly.
Hi, Jeff.
And Chad Burgett.
Hello. Thanks for having us back.
It seems like we were talking last year a little bit, and all of a sudden it's the fall of 22 is back at Charleston. So I guess I want to start with you, Todd, a little bit, then we'll get into some details of what's all going on with Charleston, because I know there's a lot of exciting things. But where do we stand, Charleston School District, in terms of COVID and restrictions? Are we free to go, or how's everything going?
Wow. Well, first of all, Jeff, thank you very much for having us back again this year. There is, as you say, a lot of excitement in our school community. Kids are back, staff are back, not only in Charleston schools, but at EIU as well. So this community just blossoms back to life, and there's a lot of energy. As far as restrictions with COVID in our Charleston schools, there are gratefully very, very few restrictions this year for our schools, because the CDC just last week released new guidance, and so we updated our safe to return plan, and masks are still recommended when community levels for COVID-19 are high. No longer, however, are we conducting screening testing for our students. And no longer are we focused on physical distance in our schools. So to a large degree, things are back to normal, and we're very happy about that.
Kind of use the common sense. Feel ill, stay home if you're a teacher or a student, right?
You got it. You got it. But we also, as you mentioned, once again this year, we brought back the two best assistant superintendents in the state of Illinois, Chad Burgett and Kristen.
This is true. This is true. We'll start with Chad a little bit. I know that, and Rob was over there this week talking about some of the outside improvements. So talk about what people can expect when they go to a sporting event or a student event or anything at Charleston High School.
Sure. I'd say there's 4 big improvements at the Charleston Middle School, High School campus. The biggest one you'd see right now would be the parking lot. So replace the parking lot. No more potholes. It looks great. We did a lot of drainage work on that and curbed it up to keep the water off of it. So we also redesigned the parking flow to make it easier to get through that parking lot. It was kind of like a jigsaw puzzle before, and so we're hoping that works out well. Other big facilities projects are, we moved the tennis courts, so they have been poured and they're now located just it would be east of the Charleston Middle School. We got 6 courts. They're letting that cure right now. Hopefully by the end of this month or first week of next month, they're going to have that coated and painted, so the courts will look different. They'll be new. That's a big change. And then inside, we have a renovation of the auditorium, which is a big project. Everything's new in that. They actually took out the concrete floor and got it back down to dirt on that. Yep, stage was ripped out, new stage. They're on the finishing touches of that right now. We're really excited about that. And then also an ag building renovation. So really trying to improve our career and tech ed program. That building was gutted to the point you could actually walk by and only the studs were up. You could see through the building this winter. We added a greenhouse.
I heard a greenhouse was coming.
So a lot of excitement around there. A couple students have been in to see those, but not many. But the looks on their faces, the wow factor, it was just, they said they were really looking forward to getting in there. And I want to just say thank you to the community, because this was made possible through the board decided to take on a debt certificate, and we're paying that money back with the 1% sales tax. So no one's property taxes are seeing an increase due to these projects. And then it was 1% the board decided to borrow, and then also very generous donation from the Charleston Area Charitable Foundation on the ag building, and
they've been good to the community.
They have been extremely. We've been blessed to get
get
those donations.
The auditorium. Give us a timeline of what's going to happen.
Auditorium should be open to the students and the teachers probably around the 9th. However, the last thing to be installed that'll take training would be the electronics, so the soundboard and the light board. They're going to have to install those after the 9th, and then Mrs. Sharp and Mr. Wengurska will have to go through some training on how to operate those.
Okay. Kristen, what about the instructional activities that we can expect new this year at the Charleston School District?
Another very exciting area to talk about, related to some of the things Mr. Burgett mentioned. The ag building that everyone can see and the greenhouse really is part of a bigger initiative going on in our district called competency-based education, where we're trying to provide more opportunities for students to get hands-on learning experiences. We have something called a graduate profile that we released to the community late last spring, which will help students. We want to make sure that students know before they leave us that they have everything they need to be successful after they graduate from Charleston High School. So we've outlined some characteristics that students need, and we're developing career pathways. So as part of that work, we're looking at, for example, when a student's a freshman or a sophomore, they're beginning to think about what their interests are, what their strengths are, and what their plans may be after high school. And we're going to help them guide their decision-making around particular courses they want to take. We can design very specific classes for students and different graduation requirements for students depending on their interests. So that may get them out in the ag building or get them involved in a horticulture class out there in that greenhouse. So we're looking forward to showing that off to the students.
Is there research done that shows that that's where kids want to go, or is that just something that Charleston School District kind of just decided that's what should happen? How's that work?
But both, a little
Okay.
bit of both. When we designed our graduate profile and we look at our career pathways, we do think about what the community needs, what are some careers that are areas of need, but we also look at student interest, and we have had growing interest in the courses offered out in the agriculture program for many years. We have a construction trades class that we're offering this year, and we've got students very excited about that. We're going to have some students able to do some car detailing. We have at the high schools, it's called CHS Industries, and our students will be able to make products even inside the building through a print shop. We have a coffee shop. Our foods classes will make baked goods for that coffee shop, and all of that in their budgeting of those, all those will be done through the accounting class. So
High school sure has changed.
our students have a lot of opportunity to get engaged in their courses.
I might add just quickly to that. We started looking and talking about this in the fall of 2019, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
That put us behind
Right.
quite a bit. And Mr. Locke, going through the high school principal, he said that those classes are already maxed out. So it's good to see that those numbers in those classes, there is a lot of student interest, and they're trying to figure out what they could do to where they don't have to turn students away because you're in excess of 30 kids in some of those classes.
Right, and instruction doesn't just look at different at the high school. It's looking different in elementary and middle school as well through our competency-based initiative. We still have Leader in Me, which is offering really exciting opportunities for our students to get some leadership skills and to learn how to bring some of those character traits into their lives and bring them home, the 7 habits.
That's interesting. Go
So
ahead.
years ago, we had very vibrant programs in that ag building.
Yeah.
And with the onset of No Child Left Behind at the federal level, there was a strong push towards every child going to college, you might recall.
Yep.
And there was a heavy focus on accountability for math and reading. Pair that with the 2008-2009 budget crisis in the state, many school districts, including our district, moved away from those vocational and career programs, the trades. Now, with 1% sales tax, with the need in the local community to improve educational preparation for the trades, and with ESSER funding, we saw this as a window of opportunity to both enhance the facility and the curriculum initiatives to strengthen our vocational, career, and technical education programming. So this is a window of opportunity that we're taking now for the kids.
Is the Class C factor into some of that too?
We still
I know
have
that's
the
a combination
Class
between
C
Matson
is
and
still
Charleston.
offered to our students. Yep.
And I think
it
it's
is.
full this semester as well, right?
I think it is, but what's full in our local district is those teachers' classes out in the
Yes.
out in that building, that facility. And do we have a name for it yet? I don't know that we
That's
have a
the
name for it yet.
million-dollar
It's a
question.
career
The
technical-
Vilardo greenhouse.
Yeah, the
Great
Vilardo
idea.
Vocational Center. No. It's we're going to call it something that's memorable, but also it captures the essence of what's happening there for the kids.
Did you have to go out and find new teacher specific or retrain ones on staff, or how does that work when it's something different?
Go ahead.
There was some retraining involved. I know Mr. Oakley he teaches the ag portion of that.
That Brad Oakley or
Ben Oakley.
Okay, I knew it was a
Yeah.
B. I couldn't. I'm sorry.
He's doing some training. There'll be a lot of training involved with the greenhouse. A lot of it, I think he's going to learn to manage it from his phone, so he doesn't necessarily have to come in and he could water the plants remotely and things like that. He's also done a great job about going out there and securing materials. So he's done some training on small engines and things like that, and has gotten donations for brand new small engines and things like that. So I think they kind of have a basis, but they're just going to have to freshen up some of their skills on some of the newer things that they're offering.
We do have a couple of new staff at the high school with all of these changes. We have a CTE specialist, and her position is to oversee the CTE programming and the CHS Industries portion that I mentioned. And we do have a teacher who teaches the construction trades, in addition to some other courses out there in that building. We did add that position as well.
Do they build a house with that? When
They build shed. Right now, they're building sheds. They built some Adirondack chairs, some picnic tables.
Yep.
What else is in their plans?
Right,
Do you know?
right now, they're going to kind of cut their teeth on some of the projects. We need a new storage shed for the athletic department. So we thought, go ahead and cut your teeth on this and kind of get the kinks out before you go out in the community, because they have built sheds for some retired teachers in town.
And Kristen might be able to share more about the integration of the various subject levels at the high school through CHS Industries, and how different teachers of different subjects are working together with the kids to integrate that curriculum for like a business, essentially.
Right, yeah.
Running a business.
Yeah, I mentioned that, for example, the accounting class would oversee all the books for the CHS industry. So, for example, if the students build a shed and they sell it, then there's going to be out in that ag building, there'll be a point of sale where those people can drive up and they can buy plants, or they can buy the shed, or they can buy an Adirondack chair or something that the students have made. And then the accounting class inside the high school can help manage that budget and help balance their books. We also have a course that is doing print material. So they may print posters, or they may to advertise that sale to the community. We also have a course inside the high school that does what you're doing. They're learning how to communicate through media, and so they may create advertisements. They may put on some short some commercials to be aired on the radio or television. So
that's neat.
So it's cross-curricular collaboration, not just for the
Say
staff.
that 3 times fast.
Yeah, not just for the staff to work together, but it's teaching the children not to compartmentalize their learning by subjects. Okay, I'm going to English class now I'm going to accounting, now I'm going to math. It helps them understand how the various subjects work together and how they can apply those in life.
And it seems like to me it'd be more fun for a student who knew that they were into building trades and they had to take accounting. They might go, but now they say they get where they can track the money, and there's more of a natural fit. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, exactly. And to see, that this is preparing them for real life. Like I said, our goal is to prepare students for after they graduate and to have the skills that they need to be successful.
Interesting. Enrollment across the district.
In Charleston Schools this year, we're seeing a slight decrease in enrollment, but that's to be expected. Nationwide, enrollment in public education is down by 5% across the nation. So our trend is a little bit down, but we're going to take a look at our 6-day enrollment figures, which are coming up here in a couple of days, and those are the numbers that will compare apples to past years.
When you look at all the different programs and the things you guys are doing in Charleston, do you set goals as kind of the school leaders? I know you can't really talk about the goals, but maybe just give us a little hint about when you go, we would love to see this, that, or the other happen with these programs.
What we try to do is align our board's goals with our administrators' goals and with our school's goals, so that all those are aligned and we're all moving in a common direction. So we have school improvement planning, and that's also based on data and measurement of student outcomes. And Kristen can talk about how that works with the principals and the school improvement planning teams. But in general, our district's goals are aligned with our tagline, and that is learning and leading every day. And so one of the things that we're trying to do this year is get everybody in our school community to use the language of leading and learning every day. So we are asking our parents, when the children come home from school, ask your children every night, at dinner, for example, what did you learn today at school? Likewise, our teachers were asking them every day to have the students reflect on what they learned at school today. Too often the question is, what did you do at school today? We want them to get into the habit of using the language of learning. Likewise, we want them to get into the habit of using the language of leading, and that ties in directly with our Leader in Me initiative that Mrs. Holly can also
talk about that, because what kind of language would students need to use?
Sure. Well, if you're familiar with Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, we're teaching those to children as early as kindergarten. So our kindergartners learn what it means to be proactive, and they learn what it means to think win-win, for example. Our students at the age of 5 years old, they have leadership notebooks. They keep track of their learning all the way through. They track their progress. And as Dr. Vilardo mentioned, we want students to always know, why are we doing this? What are you learning? And have goals for how to improve to become better. Also, with the 7 Habits and the Leader in Me initiative, we're giving students more voice at school. They have opportunities to serve on committees and have a say in what things look like, and to set goals for their leadership and their personal goals as well.
Is there incentives too for the students? I mean, free lunch on a Friday, or they get out earlier? Is there other things like that built in?
All the schools build in their own incentives. Again, that's a lot of student voice and choice, and the teachers, they all serve on different committees, our staff, and they meet, and each school has different incentive programs that they use depending on their students' interests.
What questions? Let's go to the opposite side. What questions do the parents have when a semester starts? What are the common things that they're asking right now when you have all this different stuff going on at Charleston School District?
Buses, right?
Buses, we do ask that parents are patient the first few days. The first day of attendance in Charleston, there were no kindergarten attendance. So the second full day of students, when you add those kindergartners on, buses are slow just because, you pull up to a stop, a kindergartner might not realize this is where I need to get off because it's not in front of their home.
Yeah.
So and plus bless their hearts, the bus drivers literally go through and do a checklist. So it takes a while to get the name of every student, so I know who I'm looking for and all that. So that's a question.
They want to know who their teacher is, what their schedule is, and that speaks to an interest immediately in the relationship between the student, their child, and who their teacher or teachers are. So we're encouraged by that. We have this is a great community. Parents bring us the best kids they have, and we're off to a great start. We had our first few days last week, and it was a very, very successful first few days of school.
No major issues?
No.
I think the biggest question I had just a few days leading up to it was we replaced all the kindergarten or all the playground equipment at the elementary, and the parents wanted to know is it going to be available for students. So that was done. There's some dirt work that needs to be done, but I was driving around, and it was nice to see parents, younger parents of school, not school-age children, younger than school-age children, and they were anxious just to get their family out there. One lady said, "My son's been waiting to get on that slide for 3 weeks. I'm so glad it's open," that type of thing. So that was one of the pressing issues. And would the parking lot be done was another one.
That was another one.
Yeah.
I think
And then, an hour and a half before the event is what Ramin reported to me?
Yes.
they opened up the road on 5th. The city did, yeah. So it was close, but it worked out well. They still have some work to do over there, but I think it shouldn't interrupt it.
I think some would have been asking about the COVID restrictions for the beginning of this year, but we did have a board meeting that Wednesday night before the first day of school, and we resolved that based on the new guidance that we talked about earlier.
There
We
you go.
get questions about technology too, especially at the beginning of
Do
the
they
year.
get a computer?
They
Okay.
do. Our students all have laptops, and so oftentimes they have questions about when they're going to receive those, and how to access various resources such as Empower or Skyward. Those are pretty frequent questions at the beginning of the year too.
That Skyward thing is great, but there's still some issues with that. But that's my personal thing, and I'll blame it on Matt Toon, right? Since I'm talking to Charles. There we go. Events. Is there any other events that are coming up, like the school events that people will need to know about over the next few days?
Orientation at Carl Sandburg is tonight,
Okay.
I believe, the 22nd, for first, second, and third grade parents, and staggered times depending on their grade level. So that'll be fun for families to get in and meet their child's teacher.
I guess this would be breaking news, but later today we're going to announce that Charleston is part of the community eligibility provision to where we'll be able to offer a free lunch to every student in the district. So that's going out to parents this
Oh, wow.
afternoon. You're the first to hear it.
There you go. Breaking in. We love breaking news. Free lunches in
Wow, you
Charleston.
heard
Yeah.
it here.
That's it.
We did have a successful Grill on the Hill.
I was gonna ask about the
on
Grill on the
Friday
Hill.
night, and meet the Trojans night, and that was well attended, and it was fun. Fun for the kids and fun for the parents and community.
I know I'm probably not going to get an answer, but I'm going to ask because the rumors are new turf possibly coming in the future to the field over there in Charleston. I know no one's asking you that, but I had to.
You know, when we first received the first 1% sales tax revenues, we were doing projects like HVAC, heating, ventilation,
Yeah.
air conditioning,
Roofs.
and roofs, and things that the general public couldn't necessarily see. Now, we're starting to spend some money on things that are aesthetics or needed that the general public can see, like the parking lots and tennis courts and so forth. So there is more now talk about, well, what about lights on the baseball field? What about the track? What about artificial turf, especially since area districts are getting the artificial turf? There's more talk about that. Mr. Burgett oversees a facilities committee in our district, and he always is churning the priority list of what's needed most, and that's always changing. So there is some talk of that. There's some interest in that. Of course, it comes down to how much money is available and what other priorities we have.
That's a good point. I think with something the size of turf or whatever, a lot of buzz is going on. We had someone come in and walk the area with us to give us an idea of what we were getting into.
Yeah.
I think that, as Dr. Vilardo mentioned, the track is the number one priority right now. It's over 20 years old, and that's scheduled to be replaced next year. But then looking at remaining funds, would we be able to do the football field, or is it going to be the baseball? Whatever it's going to be, it's probably going to take local resources through the district and probably some donations to pull something like that off.
And maybe on a scattered, like every other year. Maybe
Something like
field.
that.
Yeah.
And that would have to go to the board. The committee makes recommendations, and we take those to the board. So this fall, once the bills come in from all these other things, we have a better picture of, what's our budget looking like. We'll have a facilities committee and probably invite the Booster Club and then Mr. Zaruz and the AD at the high school to come to that and then just share what are their interests. Because, an interest to some isn't always an interest to other people right now.
Oh, that's a great answer. I
tough.
apologize.
No, that's
I thought I'd get on there.
it's out there.
And when people do suggest these neat ideas that we favor too, we have to, of course, look at what's available and what are our existing priorities. And so Chad does a good job with that.
And money runs the world. We all know that. So I mean,
by way of example, with the turf, we did look into and got some cost estimates for turf. But one of the things that people don't realize that Chad knows well, when we initially looked at this, is that if you buy turf for an entire district property for all your playing fields, you're going to need to replace it all in 10 years, which is a huge cost up front, and then you got to plan ahead for the next 10 years and for replacement costs.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that would be the future Board of Education determine, okay, we've got that, are we going to borrow money to continue to refresh these programs?
And
We'll see.
The Red and Gold Soccer Tournament is back this year, correct? Right? After
It is.
All the fields are done over there, I assume, at the sister city? Or they're being done. Right?
They're working on them. I don't know if they're
Yeah.
done yet or not.
I don't think they're finished yet, but
Well, that's exciting now, because that was always a big tournament. I mean, for years. I mean, it's always hot. You can guarantee hot when the Red and Gold Soccer Tournament comes to town for sure. Lift, it came to Mattoon, but I know it's more of an area thing. Are you all talk about your participation or not participation? I don't know where we stand with Lift in Mattoon.
Sure. We did get invited to participate in an intergovernmental agreement with the Mattoon School District to send students to participate in the program, and we did have our board act on that, and so we are a partner with them, and I believe that we've had at least 2 students this year that have signed up for that program, and hopefully that'll go well. And it seems like I drove by Lift this weekend, and it looks like they've got their windows in, they've got signage on, so it's pretty exciting for the Mattoon community and area district
Yeah, it's good there.
students.
So we'll see. Is there a tough part about going back to school? I mean, I know the energy great, and Charleston's 10 times busier with Eastern open up, but is there a tough part when you have to? I know you don't take your entire summers off like everybody thinks that we do, but when you have to really go back and the grind is now, is there a tough part of it?
I think for me and my position, I think it's just making sure, working with the bus garage and logistically It's like moving troops to get kids on buses at the end of the day. So that's the one thing I probably fret about the most, the first few days of buses, just because they're going to run late, but the most important thing are children getting home safely.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking for.
And for me, it's just making sure everybody has what they need. The students need their books and their online materials and their resources.
Passwords and all that,
And
yeah.
we have grant funds secured. And so, yep, just making sure we're ready to go.
How about increasing costs, Chad? I mean, materials cost more now, gas costs more. I mean, how do you factor that in? Is that tough?
This year, we have not raised registration fees for like textbook rental in years, and this year we actually decreased some of our fees. So the parking fee went way down. Now that we've got that taken care of, we're collecting fees because eventually it's going to have to be striped and seal coated just to stay on top of it like that. But the only other fees, and it's not really a fee, we did increase our sub pay to $110 a day, and then there's a mechanism to earn up to $180 a day if you're a substitute in Charleston. So, but the fees to the family, we did see a reduction in that.
That's awesome. That's what I want to be in through.
But things are going. You're right. Though, costs are going
Yeah,
up.
well, we'll take you.
There you go. Anything else before we want to get to some just silly questions to have fun today as we back to school? Anything else that I forgot about Charleston School District?
Just again, the energy and enthusiasm, excitement this year is just. I've told Chad and Kristen for the last several weeks. I can't wait. This is really, really exciting. I'm more excited about this school year than I have in years, partly because of COVID, but there's just so many initiatives going on and improvements, and you can see them and you can feel it in the energy in the buildings, and off to a great start.
There you go. Anything from you two?
I don't think so.
No, I echo that.
All right. We'll ask. We'll go. We'll go boss first and down the line.
Put him on the spot first.
It'll go Todd, Kristen, Chad. All right. Favorite musical artist?
Since high school, it's been Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift.
Based on experience with the family, Jack's Mannequin.
There you go.
right.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie of all time is Awakenings, Robert De Niro and Robin Williams. Yeah.
Oh, boy, that's a tough one.
That's what we're here for. Tough questions.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know, maybe the Godfather series. Those are pretty amazing.
That is a tough one. Sergeant York or
He likes the old movies. though.
Lord of the Rings
There you
trilogy.
go. What do you guys love most about EIU/Charleston community? This is Todd's question. You want to,
What do I love
What do
most
you like
about
most
it?
about our community?
Oh, I could go on and on about this. I moved here from a small community in 1986 to attend EIU. And when I first stepped foot on campus, it just had a feeling, I'm going to get emotional about this, but it had a feeling of home. And when I went to school here, the instructors at EIU, they welcomed me. They gave me a sense of belonging. And they were largely from and lived here in Charleston, and they were invested in the community and their students. And so it grew to be home. And it has been my home since 1986. It's just the people. You wave at people in Charleston and they wave back. It's amazing.
Yeah, I would say for me it's very similar. It's the people. This community has been very good to me personally. They're very supportive. I feel like anyone here would do anything for anyone else here. It's just a very genuinely supportive and generous community.
10 seconds, Chad. Sorry.
I'd say met my wife here. Important. And then, as you mentioned, the instructors, I still tell stories of in this building in like 1991, Dr. Bud White was a teacher here. I'll never forget that man.
We didn't get all the questions. You guys did so good. So thank you so much. Good luck this school year. And
Thank you.
and thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.